So, here we are again together, and I have something really cool I would love to show you guys. As you all know, I love entertainment, and I was born at the very beginning of the first phase of home video. Before that, if you wanted to go see a movie, you had to go to the movie theater or hope it played on television, which they didn't show that many movies back then. Well, home video came along in the early 1980s. It actually started the year I was born, 1981. How cool was that? Walt Disney Home Video launched and started a whole revolution. They went to court with Universal, and then Universal came out with their line of home videos. You get the picture. The case was lost. Universal tried suing Disney, and they lost, so then Universal had to put their videos out, and you get the picture. It rolled out like that. So in the early 80s, home video was born. And there were two brands of VCRs that had been previously released, but they were only really for time shifting and home use. The Sony Betamax VCR was first released in 1976, and JVC's VHS VCR hit the market in 1977, about a year later. So the Betamax did come out first. Now, in the following years, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, they were simply home recording time shift devices that you used on your television set. People still had to go to the movies to watch a movie, or they waited for it to come on television. Now here's the funny catch to that. Sorry, I have to drink my lemonade. When they came on television and you now had a VCR, you could record them and keep them. You had to edit out the commercials and all that, of course, but hey, you got to own a movie as long as you kept it and didn't erase it. Well, after about 4 or 5 years of this, Universal, Disney, and I think Paramount as well, took these VCR companies, JVC and Sony, to court, because they figured people were going to record their movies off the television. I mean, you had HBO hitting. HBO came out before VCRs even existed. HBO hit the airwaves in 1972, when cable was but a mere infant. Cable was just a little infant in 1972. Most people didn't have it. Matter of fact, cable didn't really hit nationally until around the same time. The early 80s is when I think every city, every market had Cablevision. But all throughout the 70s, cable systems were being placed and were growing all throughout the country. So I guess by the time I was born, cable was pretty much a standard by then. Most people had it. And they probably had HBO on top of that, or Cinemax. HBO launched in 72. Cinemax launched in 1980. So you had two sources for movies that were unedited, straight like they came out of the theaters. And by 1981, 70% of households had VCRs. That scared the pants off movie studios, because see, they kept you going back to the movie theater continuously. You'd pay again to go see it. So every time you saw it, you were paying for it, and they were making money. You recorded off television, how are they going to make their money? They can't. So they took both VCR companies to court, JVC and Sony, And believe it or not, the movie studios lost. They lost the case. VCRs were deemed good for free home use. You were allowed to use them in your home for whatever you wanted. Now, there were the same copyright laws applied. Like, you could record a movie off of HBO or Cinemax perfectly fine, but you could not sell that movie. Then you get into all those laws, you know. But it was a good thing for people that bought and had VCRs, because they got to keep them and they got to keep recording off television, and they could own any movie they wanted if they had a HBO and Cinemax subscription. Which makes me think, you know, my parents always said we didn't have HBO or Cinemax or even the Disney Channel because they were so much more expensive. My parents had a basic cable package, but they wouldn't add any premium channels. I used to be so sad because I wanted the Disney Channel and they wouldn't get it. Like, I didn't even need HBO, you know. I just wanted the Disney Channel. Well, they wouldn't add it. It was $12.99 more a month. I guess back at that time that was a lot of money, but I mean, when you consider your cable bill is probably like $20 a month, what is that? $33 a month? Yeah. But anyway, thinking back to that, if you had one of those subscriptions at that time, you had a gold mine. I mean, think about this. You could record any movie that aired on HBO, Cinemax, or even the Disney Channel, because they all had their big content. HBO had big movie studios giving them new movies fresh out of the theaters. And of course, Cinemax, same thing. They were owned by HBO, so there's a good powerhouse. And then you have the Disney Channel, which had all the Disney classics that you couldn't see. They didn't even sell half these movies yet, and they were premiering on the Disney Channel. Because I remember going to see Snow White and 101 Dalmatians and so many other classics, because when I was a little boy, there was no other way. You all hopefully are familiar with the story of Disney and home video. I'm not going to tell you here, but I will make a future video on it that'll go into further details. But Disney basically has a vault system. So I would argue, thinking back, I mean, I know people don't always think about things in the moment, but thinking back, having those premium channels on your cable was probably a really awesome idea, because you could record those movies and watch them over and over and over again if you wanted to, for a small price, you know. Look at all the money we spend now on all this crap. But anyway, getting off topic. Anyways, so the Sony Betamax hit in 1976. The video, I'm going to show you a salesman training video. What this is the first half was actually shown if you were walking through, per se, Sears electronics department or JCPenney electronics department. Yes, they had those at this time. This would be showing on a certain television that never really was released. I don't know how to explain this. Okay, a year before, in 1975, the Betamax machine was packaged with a television set. Now, this didn't sell in any high numbers. As you can gather, less than a year later, 1976, they took the VCR out of this bundle and sold it standalone. That's got to say something right there. They didn't sell any of these TV VCR combos. Their plan in the beginning, in 1975, was to sell the TV and VCR as one big combo. And that was the only way it was going to be sold. That way they would get the profit off the TV too. Get it? But that didn't work. The price tag on it was a few $1,000s. It was like $3,000 maybe. I don't honestly remember, but it was something astronomically high. Because of course you got to fashion in the television. So the following year they started selling just the VCR units. Those were about $1,000. But that's what they were. Anyway, once they did that, they started flying off the shelf. Not at first, because of course at first people were weary. But for the first 4 years, up until about 79, they were kind of something that wealthy people had. But the prices were coming down as VHS and Beta battled. And that's kind of how Beta lost. VHS just got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. They had tricks up their sleeves. Again, I'll make another video on this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you one fairly soon from a guy whose YouTube channel I love, Technology Connections. He did a whole series on the Sony Betamax. And y'all know I love to put long videos up here. So he's got them divided. I'm going to show them to you all at once. And I'll be on there critiquing because I think I can say things from experience of being there that I know he wasn't there. He doesn't know half of what he's talking about. He's telling you what he's read. So, anyways, let's get into this. This is what you saw when you walked through an electronic store's showroom showing on this one television set. And afterwards, you're going to see the salesman training video. And then I'll come back for a little more talky poo, okay?
Sony Betamax. Its only purpose is to serve you. This totally new concept in home entertainment will expand your enjoyment of television viewing to a level that was, a short time ago, nothing more than an ambitious dream. With the Betamax at your command, you'll never again be deprived of watching whatever program you desire at your convenience. You'll be free of the restrictions of time. Its uses are defined only by the limits of your imagination.
I mean, there was an astronaut walking on the moon, and we were watching it on TV.
I didn't see it.
Oh, you're kidding.
I only saw the last half.
What happened? Fell asleep?
No, I couldn't get rid of my company.
I only saw the first half.
Well, what happened? Company show up?
I fell asleep.
We've been at this for 3 weeks. I've missed 2 specials, and I've lost track of every one of my daytime programs. And I've lost half a pound.
You know, They just don't make shows like that anymore. Think they'll ever bring it back?
I doubt it.
The Betamax will allow you to break the time barrier, to record the present and save it for the future. But for the moment, consider the past.
These characters here and me will make a television show.
Tonight we may be showmen, tomorrow we'll be servicing your cars.
Good evening. I'm Ed Murrow.
This is your life. What's my line?
Oh, come now. You can do better than that. Oh, that's me.
Walter Cronkite reporting.
You're traveling through another dimension. What he's got folks tonight is the Lone Ranger.
Really big show.
I'm going to step off the limb now.
Man on the moon.
Boy.
Night.
Good night, Chet. Good night, David.
Whatever you've missed in the past, from this day on with the Betamax, you are the controller and preserver of time. You can create your own Betamax cassette library of your favorite programs and important events on every subject imaginable. Every subject, past, present, and future. The Betamax has been designed specifically with ease of operation in mind. As remarkable as the system's capabilities are, if you've operated a color TV and an audio cassette recorder, you'll be able to operate the Betamax quickly and easily. And consider the ultimate conquest of time. The ability to record any program at any time without even being there.
1, the concert was your idea. 2, the tickets were outlandish. And 3, the TV show I've been waiting for is on right now.
How was I supposed to know? Dave said this was a great performance.
Shh. Dave's probably in his living room enjoying the show I should be watching.
Whether you're across the street or across the country, the auto timer activates the system at the exact time you select, and that important program is recorded and preserved for your enjoyment and at your convenience. But you still haven't arrived at the limit of the Betamax's capabilities.
Tonight it's my turn to pick.
But I'll just die if I don't see my TV show. Anyway, your silly movie will be on again.
Sure. When?
They're running that film on TV again tonight.
Great. You'll finally get a chance to see it.
That special we wanted to see is on at the same time.
Oh, I'm sorry, dear. Why do they always do that?
Listen, if we make it home in time, we can see the last inning, right?
Wrong. If we make it home in time, we can watch my quiz show.
Since the Betamax has been equipped with an auxiliary tuner, you can record one program while you're actually watching another. Activate the Betamax videotape recorder. Insert a Betamax cassette. Press the forward and record buttons, and you've done it. Schedule conflicts are now a thing of the past. You record what you want and play it back when you want. Finally, as the perfect complement to the Betamax videotape recorder, consider the Trinitron experience. The Sony Trinitron is unquestionably the most advanced achievement in color television viewing. The Trinitron requires neither introduction nor explanation. It stands alone. Only one question remains. At what point in time will you place the Betamax at your command? Now that you have an overview of the total Betamax training program, let's take a closer look at demonstrating the Betamax. Some of the features of the Betamax are new to the average consumer, such as the video cassette player recorder, dual tuners, and the automatic timer. But even more important, the benefits which the consumer can enjoy as a result of those features may not be obvious to the average retail buyer, such as using the dual tuners to record one program while watching another, and using the auto timer to record a program without even being there. Now, in addition to explaining the benefits of the Betamax, you'll also have to demonstrate how easy the Betamax is to operate. To help you do that, Sony has developed a demonstration checklist. By following the sequence in your demo checklist, you'll be able to demonstrate the features and benefits of the Betamax with the least number of operator actions and in the shortest possible time. By role-playing with one of your co-salesmen and following the sequence in the demo checklist, you can work out your own presentations until you're comfortable with them. In fact, that's exactly what these two salesmen are doing.
Really easy to operate, hmm?
Child's play. Mere child's play.
It is incredible.
Incredible, right. Why don't you, go ahead?
Who, me? Oh, all right. You want me to be an easy close or a hard sell?
Actually, I want you to be a salesman.
Oh, you want me to be the, well, you play the... All right, it's just that I had the impression you were going to demo the first.
Oh, no, I didn't have that impression at all.
Okay. Be right with you, Mr. Davis.
To begin with, make sure the Betamax is set up for demonstration. Just follow your demonstration checklist.
Hey, now that's just, I mean, that is, oh, what is that?
This is the Sony Betamax.
Console TV, right?
No, not quite. Betamax is a totally new concept in television entertainment.
To gain your customer's attention and establish a need, play the consumer program.
Rather than telling you about the Betamax, I've got a short program here that'll show you exactly what the Betamax concept is all about.
When the consumer program is complete, remove the cassette. Then, using a blank tape, explain the features of a Betamax cassette.
Hey, what's inside the little box?
Oh, this is a Betamax cassette. Now, it's very much like an audio cassette, except that with Betamax, you record both picture and sound on the same videotape, which is protected right inside this cassette.
Well, how much can you get on there?
You can record up to 60 minutes on a single Betamax cassette. And the great beauty of videotape is you can use the same cassette over and over and re-record.
Demonstrate how to load a Betamax cassette. Emphasize how easy the system is to operate.
In fact, why don't you load this cassette yourself and see how easy it really is?
Well, I don't want to take a chance.
Now, Mr. Davis, the Betamax is virtually indestructible with normal use. You don't have anything to worry about.
Now demonstrate the Trinitron TV for your customer.
Hey, that's just like my set, UHF and VHF.
Exactly. You just select the channel you want. And with Trinitron, you get the best picture possible.
Explain the features and advantages of the Trinitron in terms the consumer can understand. Now, demonstrate TV recording. Again, emphasize how easy it is to record with the Betamax.
Well, that's all there is to it. And once you've selected the channel that you want to record, you just drop in the Betamax cassette, and then you push these two buttons right here, and you're recording the picture and sound for whatever program you want.
Then, play back the program segment which you've just recorded. Emphasize the professional quality of recording with the Betamax system. The next phase of your demonstration is one of the most important. Recording one program while watching another.
You see, the Betamax has two tuners. Now, there's a main tuner and an auxiliary tuner.
Oh, you mean these?
Right. That means that you can record one program while you're actually watching another one.
Right. I mean, really?
Absolutely. Let me show you.
You mean to tell me the Betamax was recording all that while we were watching the other channel?
That's right. See, with Betamax, there's no such thing as schedule conflict.
Now, explain timer recording for your customer. Remember, it's just like setting an alarm clock, as simple as that.
So, let's say that the program you want to record comes on at 10 at night, and you're going to be out. You just set the auto timer for 10 o'clock, and the system will automatically activate itself without your even being there.
Well, I'll tell you, there's one thing that worries me.
Oh, what's that?
Will I really be able to work this thing?
Let me ask you. Have you ever operated a color TV or an audio cassette recorder?
Well, sure.
Then you're not going to have any problem with the Betamax.
Now that the time is right, go for a trial close.
Do you have an account with us?
You mean I can put this on my card?
Of course. Well, what do you think? How am I doing?
Wilson, you're doing fine, just fine.
Yeah, I suppose you could probably demonstrate the unit without even using the checklist.
Listen, I'll have this down in no time.
Well, I'll give you a little time to get ready. But since you won't need this...
Listen, there's no harm in making sure.
Yeah, so that's what you saw, the first part, when you walked through the electronics showroom. And there was a salesman training video that they were given that they had to watch and all that. And that I showed you afterwards. Really cool stuff, man. YouTube is really cool. You could find a lot of neat stuff on here. And I love bringing it to you, making you aware if you didn't think about it before, you know. And so as y'all all know, the whole reason I'm doing this, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, I guess, the early 90s. I was a teenager in the 90s. And I preferred the Sony Betamax over the VHS. VHS won, and I understand why, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the Sony Betamax was a much better machine. They just didn't have the marketing genius, and they kind of still don't, to be honest. The PS5 is about the only thing that they've really done well with the exception of the Blu-ray disc. PlayStation and Blu-ray disc, those are their successions. Excuse me. I'm having an issue this morning. So, I grew up, all the other kids had VHS and I had Beta. But I contended I had the best machine. Kind of like what I view, what I call an Xbot. Somebody that'll defend Xbox to the end when they know they're getting screwed. But they'll defend it till the cows come home. There's a lot of that on YouTube too, man. Not gonna name names, but I've seen the videos, and it's like, man. And some guys have finally seen the light, and now they're making videos saying how frustrated they are with Xbox. Oh, we're just frustrated. Okay. So anyway, I loved Beta, and I think it was the morning of, it was one morning in 1986 or 1987. I'm waking up in the morning, you know, in my jammies, little Michael, little boy. I walk into the kitchen, and my dad has the top of the Beta VCR on the side of the counter, and he's digging in it with all kinds of tools, and oh, he was trying to fix it. He couldn't. It was done. It was broken. And so was my heart. I got so sad. We had a family friend who had a working Betamax. So my dad pretty much went with VHS at that point, because I mean at that point everybody knew VHS was going to be the winner. And who wants to be stuck with a lemon? I understand that. So he gave all of our Betamax tapes over to our family friend, and he kept them for years. He had a nice little video room where he had like hundreds or thousands of tapes lined up on a wall, properly labeled. It was nice. It was a little closet room, and that's literally all that was in there. Just walls of tapes, rows of tapes, beta tapes. He refused to get VHS, much like I contended in my mind I didn't want to go with VHS. I wanted beta. I knocked my camera. Sorry. I'm not fully on here right. So anyway, he added our tapes to his collection, and he had a massive collection. So he kept his Betamax machine, and it continued to work for years. I think it was around 1996. I think he finally, because you know, if you don't have things for a long time, you start to want things, and I get that. At that point, movies were no longer being released on beta, and beta was just something that people had that just didn't serve you anymore. You know, there wasn't much you could do with it anymore. VHS won the war in the late 80s, and that's the way it was. So VHS also had longer tapes, which benefited people. And, you know, I think it was around 96. This family friend broke down and said he wanted to get a VHS VCR. He did for the first time. And he gave me his Betamax. I was tickled pink, because he kept all the tapes my father gave him when our Betamax broke. Now, I think a few of them were missing due to they might have broke or whatever, but the majority of them he handed back to me. And that's where I got our Puff the Magic Dragon Mr. Nobody tape that also has The Grinch Grinches the Cat in the Hat on it and all that. We had some home movies on beta. Some really neat stuff that I got given back. And I used that Betamax to make copies of all that at the time onto VHS tapes. You know. Then later, it still worked in the early 2000s. So when recordable DVDs came along, I then was able to transfer the tapes that I wanted onto DVDs. And I still have them. Now, unfortunately, with that technology, I now have no way to burn DVDs anymore. So what I have is what I have, unfortunately. But, you know, digital's a thing. I'm sure in the future, who knows? You can buy a Blu-ray drive for what, less than $100? If I really had an inkling and really needed to transfer those to digital, I would think I could just buy a Blu-ray drive, hook it up to the Apple Mac, rip and create, you know. I'm pretty sure I could do that. But anyway, so I have DVD copies of some of these beta tapes, not all of them, because sadly, and if I can remember, it was probably around 2007, it died. I put a tape in there, and the picture was terrible. The audio was kind of bad. And I took it out, put another tape in, and it started eating it up. So I lost the tape during all that, basically to find out that the damn thing was broken. So in 2007, that Betamax that family friend had probably more than 20 years before that. I'm thinking 25 years. And see, that was a thing too. Sony Betamaxes actually outlasted VHS VCRs. They were much better built. They were built with actual parts. We're talking screws, nuts, bolts, and actual parts. The stuff now, the stuff by the time VHS became dominant in the 90s, everything was computer parts. There is a Betamax model with nothing but computer parts in it. It was the last one, made in 1993. That was the very last Betamax ever sold on the market, was in 1993. And it really only sold, if I can remember, at Radio Shack. And it was like, I want to say $500. It was extremely expensive, which is why Beta kind of died off, bit the bullet. Sony would not lower the prices of those things, and VHSs just got cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Until eventually you could buy a VHS for $100, and the Betamax is sitting there on the shelf for freaking $400, $399. And the thing is, the tapes, VHS tapes could hold an average of about 8 hours. Betamax could only hold about 5 hours. So there was a picture quality difference. The Beta had a much better picture, and the recording speeds, you got a much better picture reproduction on the slowest speed than you did on the VHS. But again, it just wasn't enough. Consumers, I guess, just wanted longer tapes. See, that time, that was all a learning experience with the public, really. Because, of course, like I said, video was something new for the home. Home video, whatever you want to call it. Nobody knew. So the reality of it is, you could say, okay, our product has better picture quality. Well, I get that, but if you don't have anything to compare it to, what does that matter? Like, people, I don't think, cared because it wasn't a thing. There was nothing to compare it to. It's a tape. I just want a longer tape so I can fit this 6-hour whatever it is on this tape. And I can't do it on Beta. So they're going to go with VHS because they can. And that's what happened. Sony just didn't have long enough tapes. They had way better features. The picture was better. The Beta also had digital audio, something the VHS lacked. VHS just had VHS Hi-Fi. Betamax, which originally had Beta Hi-Fi, that's a funny story in itself. So Beta hit first with stereo VCRs. Beta created Beta Hi-Fi. Well, a year later, VHS Hi-Fi was created. See, every time Sony did something, made a move, they had the first, this is the first time a VCRs had this feature. That was always on Beta. But then, like less than a year later, now on VHS machines, they would copy everything. But the one thing that they could not copy, that VHS never copied, was digital sound. Yes, the Betamax had PCM audio built into its recorders. So much so that a lot of people would record compact discs on Betamax tapes to get as close to, I guess, the same quality sound as a CD, which prompted Sony to go back to the drawing board and create a whole new thing where they created the mini disc. But that's going to be another topic for another video, like I always say. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going down memory lane. I was a Betamax guy. I loved Betamax. And it was sad to see it die off like it did. But I do have a lot of fond memories. I had a family friend who enjoyed Betamax just as much as I did. We used to argue with my father because my father thought VHS was better. So it was kind of funny when this family friend gave me his Beta and said he wanted VHS. I'm thinking, you traitor! But I get it now. I mean, look, it's kind of like with Xbox and PlayStation. I'm seeing PlayStation get all the games, and there's nothing new coming to my Xbox. So it feels like, it's over for the Xbox, right? And that's kind of how I'm sure he felt. It was over for Betamax. It's time to get into the now. Which was funny because that was like in 96. DVD was right around the horizon. Matter of fact, I think it was already out. It was just a really wealthy person's item still. It still took many years to come down in price. I think by the early 2000s, most households had it. But in the 90s, you had to be very wealthy to have a DVD player. According to history, they came out on the market in 1994. I don't even remember them going back that far. I can remember about 1996. But again, it was something we stared at electronic stores on the shelf and went, wow, I want one of those, but we can't afford it. Fast forward to like 2001, I think I got my very first DVD player. So. Alright, so I enjoyed sharing that with you guys, and I'll see you later for more awesome programming. Bye-bye.